This is so satisfying to make.
All right, back as I promised. So previously, I mentioned to you guys that this is how I store all of my die cuts. I find myself reaching for die cuts a lot more these days, and I find myself using my Cricut very seldom. And the reason for that is I love the way that die cuts cut. When they create a cut, so let me show you as an example. So even with these sentiment dies, when I used to use the Cricut cutter, it used to cut these sentiment dies for me just fine, but it was a very straight cut, as in I use a pair of scissors and I cut it. Versus when I use die cuts to kind of cut these sentiment out, as you can see, you see these like on the ridge of it. It's like a raised ridge, so it causes the text to kind of like pop up a little more rather than just a flat surface. It's more of a semi 3D kind of surface, and I just love the way it looks. It has like a beveled effect. I feel like it's like these little details that gives um your card that little extra it makes it that much more professional looking. So I love it. So yeah, I find myself reaching for my die cuts a lot more and a lot less with my Cricut cut. And also the Cricut cut is so it's such a nuisance when it comes to finer detail cuts. Like for example, this die right here, if I were to feed this, if I were to feed an image into my die my Cricut and have it cut it, each time it would go through these detail, it would snag somehow, and you'd have to adjust the blade depth in order to get it to cut just right. So it was way too much hassle. Now I just get my die, and I found that I can get the die for pretty cheap on Amazon. I just get my die, run it through my scissors, and it's just as beautiful as you can see it through with some of my projects so far. Anywho, going back to the topic, this is my chipboard, and then this is my magnetic sticky sheets. I used to put these ribbon on here, these color coded ribbon, but I find them very unhelpful. So I think what I might do is just remove the ribbon itself and just label it up here. I think that works better. I will put the specific link that I use to purchase these chipboards because I purchased them about 3 to 4 times before I got the right one. Some were too thin, some were thick, but they were super cheap, so they're not like hard. Like as you can see, these are actually like semi cardboard. Not too hard, not too thick to the point where it takes too much space in terms of storing, but like they're good and they're a good size. So yeah, I will link them down below if you're interested in buying the same, because it literally took me 4 times before I found the right ones. Because not all chipboard are made equal.
So I tried using this machine here that I always use to cut my cardstock, and of course it failed to cut this chipboard. I tried one chipboard and it still didn't work. It almost even broke my machine, so I'm glad I kind of stopped before I proceeded and had to replace this one. So I bought out my Mammoth one. This thing is a beast and it weighs a ton. So it took me a lot of effort to put it on this desk just to show you guys, but pretty much it's a your typical lever paper cutter, but it's very heavy duty. It would cut through I would say a whole stack of paper. So in this case I used a chipboard, but instead of cutting it one at a time, I actually put about like 4 or 5 chipboard in there, and it was cutting just fine. I did notice though, when you kind of shove it all the way up to the tip top, your last sheet tends to not cut that well. So just from experience, I would just shimmy this down a little bit from the top edge to cut. And with that in mind, would I recommend this machine to all my crafters out there? Probably not. If you're thinking about bulk cutting, you're thinking about bulk anything, then yeah, sure, this machine is great. But if you're just making one card at a time and so on and so forth, I wouldn't recommend this machine. I bought it before like 3 years ago thinking I'm going to have all these crazy projects, but that never came to fruition. So, of course, it's been sitting there collecting dust, and this is probably one of the few times it's been used since the time that I bought it. Okay, once cut to size, all you have to do is put your magnetic stickies on. And once you do that, you can use the same machine to kind of cut it in half, just like I'm doing here. And just like that, you have an entire stack of magnetic sheet for all of your dye storage. Um, this is so satisfying to make. It didn't really take me that much time. It's just pulling out the machine was most of the work. But otherwise, so satisfying and so affordable. Highly recommend you guys try this. Phew, hard work is over. Now it's time to organize these dyes. You see that giant pile? Well, guess what? There's two more giant piles on the other side. So I have a lot of work to do. And thank you for watching my video. Please do not forget to hit that subscribe button, comment down below to share your thoughts, and also make sure you like that video. And thank you so much for your support. Bye.